could have been anything. But they grow up wanting to imitate Rich Homie Quan or whatever. Or you'll see a video by a scholar or a brilliant brother like Malik Shabazz, and it might have a few thousand views, but then you'll see some rapper who don't even know how to use real words, who has 250 million views, talking about I'm gonna kill everything moving and all this other crazy stuff that they say in these songs. You got a song called Panda. Some of y'all might have seen it. It sounds crazy. Let me quit. I'm not clowning. I'm not making fun of that generation. I'm just saying that that is real interesting to me that you have so many of our children that reach the age of 18, can't read, can't write, can't do math, but somehow they've memorized every song on the radio. They can tell you the whole storyline of love and hip hop. They can do all kinds of stuff, dribble basketballs, throw footballs, sing and dance and entertain white folks to the end of time, but don't have the basic fundamental skills that they need to survive in a racist capitalist society. This is not anti-football, this is not anti-dancing, not anti-singing, not anti-none of that. I sing every day. But before you get into this nonsense, you got to take care of business. You must take care of business. In fact, from a fundamental standpoint, if you want one piece of very essential critical advice, every black child in America must learn the fundamentals of starting their own business at a very early age, before they learn anything else. Before you send your child to college so they can go $150,000 in debt for a degree that won't even get them a job, make sure that your child spends that summer learning how to start a business. And this ain't about getting rich. This ain't about trying to live like the other half and the 1%. This is about survival. I mean, for real, this is about protecting your sanity. Because racism will drive you crazy. I mean, work around them folks that don't like you, look down on you, treat you any old kind of way just because you're black or whatever, or identify you as being radical just because you think that Mike Brown shouldn't have been killed, or you're upset about what happened to Alton Sterling, and suddenly you know you mentioned it in the office, and next thing you know your evaluations kind of start to decline a little bit, and suddenly you become the problem child, and you're not getting the promotion you thought you were going to get, or the raises, or any of that other stuff. That's a system. And what's interesting is that because we don't prepare our children to escape that system, you are feeding your kids to the slaughterhouse. When you send your child at the age of 18 out into this economy without the fundamental skills that they need to create their own job or take care of themselves in case the white man ain't hiring, you are feeding them to the slaughterhouse. You see, some people try to say that black people don't have a role in this economic system, and that's not true. We have a role. We have a role. We're there for somebody else's benefit, somebody else's exploitation. In many ways, we're like the KFC chicken who gets invited for dinner and really thinks he's there to eat. Look at the prison industrial complex and how many billions of dollars are made from slave labor. From the vast majority of those people are black. Look at the NCAA and all these big white universities making $1 billion a year out of our community, taking our best resource, one of our best resources, one of our most valuable resources, dumbing them down, getting them doped up on ignorance like a pimp would do a prostitute. Everything, the analogy works. That's exactly how a pimp deals with a prostitute. A pimp doesn't want a prostitute to be educated. A pimp doesn't want a prostitute to have high self-esteem. A pimp doesn't want a prostitute to be empowered. Maybe he wants her on drugs. Because if you're doped up and you're distracted and all you're thinking about is your next high, then it's easy for me to exploit you. So if you really look around, you see a lot of systems where black people are fed into these systems. You go to the inner city schools and you see these horrible schools. They ain't teaching no kids how to read. A school full of black kids with nothing but white teachers. These white teachers from the suburbs educating our kids. Why? Well, they're making money off your kids. That's what they're doing. And you can't sort of look at this in a vacuum and somehow dismiss your role in perpetuating the system. One of the first things that you were trained to do when you were born was to hand your kids right over to their oppressors so they can educate them. You're handing the mind of your young people over to the people who hate them the most, because somehow you were convinced that you don't have the ability to educate your own children. There are about 50 things I can name that white people do regularly that we really believe black people cannot do. You'd be amazed at how many Negro naysayers I run into online. That's what I call them, Negro naysayers. You know, black people who find a problem for every solution. who'll be like, Dr. Boyce, you unrealistic. Black people can't run businesses. Black people can't do that. Black people can't. And I'm like, wait a minute. White people, thousands of white people have done this. Millions of white people have done this. What the hell makes you think that we can't do everything they can do? And then some. I mean, because understand this. This is not about me saying that you're equal to everyone else. The indicators might say that you have some elements of superiority. I mean, really. Really. After all, you're the descendants of the survivors of the Middle Passage. You don't get no better than that. You survived the worst kind of slavery known to man. They had slavery in other countries, but it was nothing like what we went through in America. And you survived all of that. You've been through several Holocausts. The Jewish community, they built a lot of wealth to protect themselves from one Holocaust that occurred in Nazi Germany. It was horrible, it lasted about 6 or 7 years. You've had at least 4 or 5 Holocausts that have lasted over 200 years. The Middle Passage was a Holocaust. 250 years of slavery was a Holocaust. Jim Crow was a Holocaust. Mass incarceration was a Holocaust. And in every Holocaust you endured, there were at least 10 times more deaths in your community than there were in the Nazi Holocaust during World War II. So the fact that you survived all of this says that when you put your mind on anything, there's nothing you can't do. There is nothing you can't do. And what I see so often is I see other people that represent and understand, and they can identify the power of the black mind. And what they'll do is they will convince you to take the most powerful thing you own and turn that gun on yourself. That's right. And when you do that, then you're going to be stopped, because you're so powerful that when you decide you're going to stop yourself and stop each other, the devastation is unimaginable. Just look at Malcolm X. Look at how amazing he was after he met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And then look at how amazing he was before he met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The difference was in the first case, he was amazing in a good way. In the other case, he was amazing in a bad way. If he had lived his life as a criminal, he would have been one of the most notorious criminals of all time. I'm serious. So when I look around and I see some of these guys that lead us down the rabbit hole of death, mostly through music and entertainment, etc., it really upsets me, because I see geniuses that have been taught to use their power to destroy their own people. And what I truly believe, and while I certainly agree with what's been said about the horrors of Donald Trump being president of the United States, we all know what kind of idiot he is. I'm also a believer that the ultimate determinant of the fate of black people will be black people. When we decide that we want to organize and really build in the way Brother Shabazz was sharing with you today, there's nothing that can stop us. They've been trying to kill you for hundreds of years and it ain't working. They can't stop you. Now, let me give you some context and some background to help you understand where this is coming from. If you hear a message, you should understand the person who's sharing the message. When I was born, my mother was young. My mother was so young, I think she and I went to elementary school together. And I remember kind of being kicked through school. I remember school was never a pleasant experience. And like a lot of young black boys, I identified myself as an athlete, maybe a rapper or something like that. I didn't really think I was actually smart enough to do any of the things that I do right now. And I remember when I got to college, and I went to college because my father, my biological father wasn't there, but I was raised by a real man. That makes a big difference. Stop acting like fathers don't matter. Fathers do matter. And I was raised by a strong man who said, well, when you turn 18, you got to go. You're not going to live up under me. You're not going to be in this house. You're going to be a man. So my choices were to get a job, go to the military, or go to college. And I had a little bit of money to go to school, wasn't much. And so I chose to go to school because at that time a war had just started and I didn't want to get shot. I heard that's not fun. And I also knew that I didn't want to get pimped. I didn't like people telling me what to do. I don't enjoy that very much. And I also had a baby on the way. So when I was 18, I got a job at Taco Bell and I met my first girlfriend. And she introduced me to this thing called sex. And next thing you know, this baby's here. So it all happened at Taco Bell. So stay away from tacos. They'll get you in trouble every time. Let's boycott tacos, brother. We got to boycott the Taco Bell. And so here I was in school, and I was trying to figure out how to make this school thing work, because I knew that if I didn't get an education, I wouldn't be able to really be a good father for my daughter. I wouldn't have any money to do that. And all I knew was sports. I didn't know really how to study. I'd never really done it before. I never made good grades. I never made a single A all through school, and I made maybe a couple of B's. And so what I realized, what I learned from sports, was that if you want to win a championship, you practice hard, you practice in advance, and you practice consistently every day. And I didn't know that that was contrary to how most college students study. Most college students will try to learn a month's worth of stuff the night before the test. I also knew that if you want to beat out the next man, you work harder than the next man. These are very simple rules I learned from sports. And so when I was sitting there and I was trying to think, well, how many hours a day should I study to be a good student? I'd never studied before. And so I thought about it like this. I said, well, when I worked at Taco Bell, if I went to work, they tell me to work 9 to 10 hours a day, and I did that with no problem. So I figured I could do 5, 6 hours a day of studying, and that's easy, right? I don't even have to stand up. I can sit down the whole time. And I did not realize at that time how dramatically different that thinking was compared to other kids I knew, right? In fact, you could go to a college student and tell them that they should study 5 hours a day and see how quick they look at you like you're crazy, like you don't lost your mind. Oh, Lord, I can't do that. That's too much work. But here's the interesting thing to me. That same person who will say that I can't sit down and study 4 or 5 hours a day to build my future will get up and go to work for a white man at McDonald's for 10 hours a day and ask no questions whatsoever. In case you don't know, that is a slave mentality. When you can only work hard when somebody's telling you what to do, but you can't work half as hard to build your own future, that means that you respect your boss when that white guy is instructing you, but you don't respect your boss when you're working for yourself. You respect what he's built, but you don't respect what you could possibly build. So before we ever talk about anything about black economics and black wealth building or anything like that, we got to build our self-esteem. It has to start with love. You got to love yourself. You got to love your people. Because here's the thing. We don't really need more wealthy Negroes. We got a lot of wealthy black people out here. What we need are wealthy black people who actually give a damn about the black community. Yeah. So when you hear conversations that talk about what it's going to take for us to achieve this thing called equality, what it's going to take for us to achieve this empowerment thing or whatever it is that we think we're going after, it's an interesting conversation because I think a lot of people really still don't understand. Again, it's because we're all brainwashed, me included. We don't really understand that there's just simple rules of global economic warfare that apply here. And one is that you can never beg your oppressor to give you equality. They will never, you can't beg and wait for a permission slip or get mad because every time we build our own, white folks get mad. Yeah, they're going to get mad. Really, have you ever played in a basketball game where the other team clap whenever you score points? Or you compete for a trophy, the Cavs are playing against the Warriors and Steph Curry's like, go LeBron. Seriously. No. The only time you're going to get free points is if you are so far behind and so far out of the game that they feel sorry for you. And that's what we do. Many of us are accustomed to living off of pity. We really think that if we complain enough about our problems, enough people see us getting abused enough, that somebody's going to throw us a bone and take care of us, so we're going to be okay till the next day comes by. And in fact, there's a good documentary you should watch on Netflix called Poverty, Inc. Poverty, Inc. And what they talk about is how the strategy they use with you, black people in America, is very similar to what they use all throughout the diaspora. Basically, it's how they built these massive industries built on maintaining poverty in Africa so they could take the picture of the starving little boy. They sell that picture to other white folks who give money. They take this money. Now, if they really wanted to empower these countries, what would they do? They would, if they want to make shoes for the kids in an African country, they would use a local manufacturer to build up the business, but they don't do that. They take that money, they pay their friend to make shoes for these poor, pathetic people in Africa who can't possibly take care of themselves, and they dump all the shoes on the market. And here's what happens, 2 things. Number one, the people become accustomed to begging and waiting for charity to get what they need. And number 2, the local businesses all shut down and die because people would rather have the free stuff. So ultimately, at the end of the day, this very system makes some people rich and it perpetuates poverty. That's how capitalism works. Capitalism really doesn't care what it feeds off of. It just wants to eat. It's the greediest mechanism in the world when it's not used in a conscientious way. When it's used in an abusive way, capitalism can ultimately lead to various forms of slavery. So when you look around in the black community, here's what I saw, and this is why I got disgusted during the Obama presidency. I didn't enjoy watching any of that. God bless him, love Michelle, the kids are cute, all that stuff. Okay, cool. But what bothered me was that there was never ever a serious conversation about the black unemployment gap that I ever saw take place in the White House. Not once. Every time they say, well, you know, black people complaining again, let's bring in Al Sharpton. I'm like, Al Sharpton has visited the White House 9,487 times, and the man is a preacher. He's a preacher, he's not an economist. First and foremost, I'll tell you this, Dr. Claude Anderson and Dr. George Fraser could have told the president in 10 minutes everything they need to know about fixing the economy in the African American community. Easily. And the other interesting thing is that we somehow have been falsely led to believe that the solution to the black unemployment crisis, which has existed for the last 60 years, hadn't changed that much, we believe that the solution is for white people to give us more jobs. That is not a solution. That only puts you more in debt to white supremacy. Do you really want more black people going into those hostile work environments every day? Do you understand how racism eats away at you psychologically, spiritually, and physically? I met a brother one time who told me that his job stressed him out so much that the doctor said that the testosterone had literally been zapped out of his body. I mean, I'm talking about literal emasculation. Not figurative, literal. He said, I couldn't perform for my wife. He said I was gaining weight. I was laying in bed all day. I was depressed. All these things. And he said the best thing that ever happened to him was the day he got fired. But here was the interesting thing. He came downstairs and wanted to show me what he was taking to balance out his condition. He had a big bucket of pills. A big old bucket of pills he had to take just to rebalance himself physically and psychologically because the racism ate away at him that bad. So you got to get away from all of this nonsense. You have been trained to find a way to survive in the midst of a horrifically dysfunctional situation. There ain't nothing natural about any of this. Nothing. So when we talk about dealing with black unemployment challenges and black wealth issues and the wealth gap and all this other stuff, for somebody to tell you that the way to fix the black unemployment problem is for white people to give us more jobs, that's like me saying to you, oh, you broke, you don't have any money? I'll give you a loan. That's exactly what it is. So I'm easing your temporary pain, and because people believe in short-term gratification, they think that's a good thing, and then you're becoming more and more indebted to me. I control you more and more. And we get to the point where if I know that I'm the reason that your kids get to eat every day, you're not the man of your house. I'm the man of your house. Understand this. And some of us got families like that. You got those relatives that, you know, you tell them you got a new job, they want to pop bottles and throw a party, but you tell them you started a business, they want to feel sorry for you. They like, oh, so that nobody wanted you, huh? That's the way it is. Like seriously. I mean, that's what I see. And in fact, George Fraser and I were joking behind, back in the green room. We said, this is interesting. You know, you get a few people in when you talk about building businesses, but if this was a job fair, the line would be down the street. Right. Why? Well, because we have been trained for this kind of dependence. We've been trained, and our self-esteem was ripped away from us to the point where we just don't believe that we're capable of building anything. Also, we've been trained to buy into this short-term gratification of getting a job as opposed to planting seeds that will build empires in the next generation. We've been trained to do things in this generation that will cause our kids in the year 2086 to have the exact same problems we have. And they'll be writing articles and doing videos saying, well, you know, back in 2016, they had the same problem that we have now. Just like we do when we talk about what people were going through in the 60s. So understand this. Look, the fight for political power is important. The fight for social justice is important. But political power without economic power is like getting a driver's license when you ain't even got a car. Because if you want to ride, you only going to get there if somebody gives you a ride. They're not going to let you drive the car. They're going to take you where they want to take you. You'll probably be in the back seat. And when they decide to put your ass out of the car, they're going to put you out of that car. I'm sorry, I said the word ass. We in the church. Forgive me. I won't say it no more. And one thing I do believe is that when we think about what it means to build a Black Wall Street, we're usually thinking big. We're thinking about something that's going to cost hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion to build, a bunch of shops and factories and everything else. And I think that can be a Black Wall Street. That certainly would fit the model. But what actually, my definition, my humble opinion on this, is that a Black Wall Street can be very small as well. All of Black Wall Street is a scenario in which you have a group of black people who all agree to engage in cooperative economics. It comes down to at least three major markets: the market for capital, the market for contractors, the market for customers. What does that mean? That means that if we all formed a Black Wall Street in this room right here, it means that if I got a business idea, I'm trying to raise money, and you got some capital, you're looking to invest the capital, we make a match, we make it work. Right? If I'm looking for a customer base and you have a customer base and you can help me out, then we work together and we share, then we make that work. I help you survive. Or if I'm looking for a contractor, I don't have the money to pay or whatever, then you come along and maybe you help me out and I borrow with you or whatever the case may be. Or if I make an investment in your business or give you a loan when you're in financial trouble, I don't look at your credit score because I know you. I know you and I know where you live, and I've been doing business with you so long, so I don't even look at your credit score. I don't care. Most of the black people that I either partner with or that work with me or for me or whatever the case may be, two things. Number one, I don't know any of their credit scores. I never ask, but I loan them money all the time because I know them. Number two, I don't know if any of them went to college or what college they went to. I don't even ask, but I do know if they know how to do their job. I do know that much. So you can form a Black Wall Street in your own family. All you need is a concept that I would refer to as an economic family, just people that are playing the same game as you. Because cooperative economics, building an economy, is no different from building a relationship. The same things that can destroy an economy are what can destroy relationships. So the same things that make it difficult for black people to do business with each other are the same factors that cause black people to not be able to sometimes love each other.